Now, Dragon might actually be meeting Luffy a lot sooner than most of us think, especially considering the chain of events of the last previous chapters, especially in correlation with the Revolutionary Army. I think the fact that we're seeing the Revolutionary Army more here definitely signals Dragon coming into this arc and playing some role, right? And I think there's a very strong case to be made here. You know, the fact that we got Dragon's backstory, the reason that he created the Revolutionary Army, his friendship with Vegapunk, there's a lot of things that's putting Dragon in the limelight. And so we're getting these events and these things correlated to him because moving forward in the story, he's going to play a role. So that's something that I'm excited to see, and I think everyone is excited to see, because Dragon is a very mysterious character, right? Ever since the beginning of the story, we've barely got any details on him, right? We're only getting there now, you know, 1,000 chapters later. So I feel like Oda is definitely setting something up here. Now, before we keep going, guys, I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video. Let's go for 500 likes. Hit the bell if you want to get notified for future content, and subscribe if you're new here. Now, let's start from the beginning. Now, Dragon meeting Luffy is probably one of the most anticipated moment in all of One Piece. And this is almost like a shonen trope where we have the protagonist meet his father, because usually the father is missing in the story in some way, shape, or form. We kind of saw that in Naruto, and we're seeing that here in One Piece as well, right? We only got to know about Dragon about 100 chapters in, and even then, he wasn't actually confirmed to be Luffy's dad till about 300 chapters later. So this is something that's almost textbook shonen that needs to happen. Dragon meeting Luffy, and of course one of the more interesting things will be how they interact, because I feel like Dragon and Luffy are not the same type of people, right? I would agree if this was Dragon of the past, right? Because when he was a freedom fighter, it looks like he was more wild back then, kind of similar to what Luffy is right now. But obviously as he aged, he got more experience and he does things more differently now, especially in his battle against the world government. He can't be like Luffy. Though we do get a slight bit of semblance as to what he thinks about Luffy, in the sense that Luffy being a pirate is a good choice, right? And this was something that he stated back in Logtown, whereas he feels like being a pirate in this world as it is right now is a good choice because it fits the future that he envisions, which is why he made that comment, which is very interesting. And again, it does also tie into Luffy going against the world government as well, because Luffy is sort of an outlier within pirates where he just does whatever he wants, right? People don't normally go against the world government, but of course Luffy is very different because he has a track record of going directly against the world government, right? Enies Lobby, Impel Down, hitting a celestial dragon, just to name a few, right? So in Dragon's eyes, that's a good thing, right? So there might be some sort of connection between him and Luffy there. And we do also know that Dragon was the leader of the freedom fighters, and we know that one of the biggest themes of Luffy's character is about freedom, right? So again, there's a lot of things that connect these two characters together apart from just being father and son, right? And on the other side, I do also see a disconnect, whereas these two have completely different personalities, and it's not like they want to meet each other, but it is something that Dragon is expecting, especially considering the nature of these two characters in context of the story, right? They're both D's, they're actively going up against the world government on several occasions. These two are just fated to meet eventually, and I think that time is coming very soon. Actually, it might be in this arc. Now, as of right now, these two are on two separate islands, very far apart. The Kamabaka Kingdom is in the Grand Line, while Luffy and the others are in the New World. And as of right now, they're kind of focused on two separate things. Dragon, as of right now, is more focused on dealing with the situation that he has with Kuma. But Kuma, on the other hand, is having his own situation in which he's in a hurry to get somewhere. And I think where he's trying to go to is Egghead Island, because I feel like he noticed that his daughter is there and is trying to get to her, at least the human side of him, right? And I think the way that he was able to realize that was because of his connections to the other Kumas. Now, we don't know how the pacifistas work, but I do think that it makes a lot of sense that they have a shared network in which they get their information, such as bounties and the names of pirates. And what you would notice is that Luffy and Bonnie encountered a pacifista in the city, and I think this might have triggered Kuma to make a sudden move, right? And that's why he was running away in a hurry. That's how I sort of rationalize it, right? And we do also know that Kuma has a very high utility based devil fruit in which he can sort of warp himself around, and he does have a technique in which he can essentially send people to different seas, and this was the ability that he used on the Straw Hats, right? And I think that's the ability that he used on himself in the previous chapter. So he's obviously going somewhere, and I don't really see the point of Oda deviating to something else other other than Egghead, because that would just split the story into two separate things that we have to focus on. And so I feel like everything is sort of coming together, right, into one place, a singular spot, right? And that spot is going to be Egghead Island, in which Kuma is heading there for his daughter. And because Dragon is trying to know what's going on, he's going to try to follow Kuma. Now, as to how he's going to follow him, we know that Dragon has a more than likely a Logia, the Wind fruit, or the Sky fruit, whatever it is. He has more than likely the ability to fly and sort of follow Kuma to wherever he's going, and I think that's eventually going to lead to Egghead Island, in which he's eventually going to meet Luffy there. So that's how I see things playing out. And again, as I mentioned before, I don't see the point of Oda deviating to somewhere else, right? I feel like he has to keep things together and keep the story more cohesive, right? Especially to things or elements that have correlations together. In this case, Luffy and Dragon are very connected, and also Kuma and Bonnie are also very connected, as well as Dragon and Vegapunk. So there's a lot of ties, and these individuals meeting each other in one place, it makes a lot of sense. And it would be interesting because you would have Luffy meeting Dragon here, and you would also have Bonnie meeting her father as well, right? So there could be some sort of contrast between those two and their relationship with their parent. So that's something that Oda could easily dive in. So I think it makes a lot of sense for Luffy to meet Dragon in this arc, right? Given the things that Oda has sort of set up so far. And we'll probably get a lot of answers to a lot of different elements pertaining to Dragon. Like, we could get his devil fruit ability being confirmed here. Again, there's a lot of speculation as to what Dragon's ability is. A lot of people think it's a mythical Zoan or a Logia, and some people think it could be a Paramecia as well, like a weather Paramecia. So having his devil fruit being revealed here would be cool, and a conversation that he could have with Luffy, and one that I think a lot of people have been talking about in the community, is Luffy's mom. Because while Dragon was a freedom fighter, sometime after that he created a revolutionary army, and during that time period is when he had Luffy. So he had to have met Luffy's mom at some point during that time, right, while he was going up against the world government at the same time, right, creating this army and all of this stuff. So where Luffy's mom comes into all of this will be very interesting to know, because Luffy's mom is another character that is heavily speculated about, right? Some people even think that Crocodile is Luffy's mom, right? So getting a confirmation as to who Luffy's mom is would be great if we do get it in this arc, and if Luffy does conversate with Dragon. And another character that could also be correlated to all of this is Garp, and sort of Dragon's relationship with Garp, because I feel like Garp would have more than likely raised Dragon to become a Marine just like himself, which could have been the case and would tie into a lot of these theories of Dragon being a Marine in the past, right? Whether he was a Vice Admiral or he was part of CP0, and what exactly made him change to become the person that he is today. Because again, he definitely saw something that changed his perspective on the world. And what does Dragon think of Garp? Because based on what we saw in his backstory with Vegapunk, it doesn't look like Dragon is very fond of people that are under the Marines, right? He called Vegapunk a lapdog for, you know, going with the world government. So he might have the same perspective for Garp as well, though we might get more nuances, details, because there's definitely more to that relationship there. So I'm actually excited if Luffy does meet Dragon here, and I think it would be perfect because everything is just sort of correlated right now. We got a bit of his backstory here, and the revolutionaries are becoming more active in the story, in which Oda is starting to show them a lot more than usual. So I think this would be great if it does happen. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video, comment down below what you guys think, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, hit the bell if you want to get notified for future content. You can follow me on Twitter at FerroSpace. But it is Ferro, guys, and I will see you folks later. Peace.